Oh, Mr. Robot, I'm so happy you're back. I'm so sorry. We've had so much illness, snow, ice, and everything in between this winter. It's just been awful. So it's been hard to coordinate with you. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Snow, ice, and everything nice,
Yeah, no.
like the flu.
Yeah, yeah. Flu, COVID, stomach bugs, chest infections. Yeah, being snowed and iced in for 10 whatever days, minus 4 degrees at the high. Just terrible.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Hey, it takes time sometimes, and I did notice you've made a lot of videos lately, and I check them out every here and there. And what I'm most surprised about is that even though we haven't made a video in a while, I still get emails from people asking me to look into things with you, and I find that pretty interesting.
Oh, great. Well,
So,
good. I'm glad. I hope you have things for us to look into.
as people are essentially finding our old videos, which I think is very interesting. So I'm actually going to point something out here. I'm going to pull it up real quick. Let me search your page. Uh,
Ruh-roh. Well, we're starting to gain more subscribers. Yeah. So, those of you while Mr. Robot is looking for whatever it is he's looking for, don't forget he does Reiki sessions.
so you see my page, right? Or you see
Mm-hmm.
my screen?
Yep.
So what I wanted to point out, I don't know if anyone's ever pointed out. Um, Once upon a time, I bothered Liz and her cohorts long enough to make a playlist section right here. And
Oh,
um,
I didn't even know that had been done.
yeah, so it's not all of the videos we've done, unfortunately. But if anyone's interested in the stuff I do with Liz, there is a playlist, and some of these actually aren't ones I've done, but let's just say probably 85% of them are most likely videos that we've done together. So check those out.
Oh, excellent.
If
Thank you. I
I know
didn't
some
even know.
people, yeah, I know some people are. It's hard to tell from looking at a video unless you put my name in the title, which I don't expect you to do, you know. But some people like email me and ask, which videos I've done, for instance. So you could just go there.
Excellent.
Anyways, so what I've been up to lately, just working mostly. I did want to mention I have attuned someone through Reiki, through a distance. So, as people may know, I do energy healing, and it doesn't matter if you're near or far. Most of my clients are far, and this also applies with attuning, so I can pass on the gift basically. And I recently just attuned her to master level, which means that she can pass the gift on to whoever she wants now, and she can make her own money doing that. So, just want to let people know that that's also possible.
Excellent. Wow. And this is where people come to book an appointment with you for Reiki.
Yeah, so so here's my site for the moment. I actually don't want to pay to have a site anymore because a lot of people know me through just my email address. But for the moment, I have myhealing.site. And if you, let's just say that this doesn't exist anymore someday, you can just email me at moongrass777 at gmail.com, because basically free to me. This website costs, not that much, relatively speaking, but I basically don't want to pay for just having a landing page. But something nice about having a landing page is I got to put this here. I was telling Liz about my friend in the Ukraine. We were just talking about her. So you can check this out. There's some information there if you want to hear about it. Basically, she wants to go to school, and I did some basic math, and this would basically cover school for like 6 months. So crazy how cheap stuff is, relatively speaking, to our lifestyles here. You guys can check that out if you want. And this is kind of what it looks like. But there's some more information. I don't want to blab on too much about that. But I do have some interesting things to talk about.
Okay.
Um, I was listening to this really interesting doctor who was talking about how we evolved for, depends on which model of thinking you want to abide by, how long humans have been around, to basically not have grown up having flour in our diet. Um, that it's a finely ground carb, with everything subtracted from it that's nutritionally beneficial, and then mixed to make modern day bread, which usually has fats and sugars, bonded with it. And long story short, it was something along the lines of saying like modern day bread is bad. I was wondering if we kind of probe that a little bit.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
Well,
people who have celiac and all kinds of issues nowadays.
oh, absolutely. You know, what's interesting is the other day we were doing a probe about hunger and the way that our bodies are programmed, and most of us are still operating at this early man level. So,
Yeah.
talking about like the first man or men or the first humans here on the earth plane, and our bodies are programmed to whatever, substance we're taking in.
Hmm.
Our cells read the coding of the cells that we're ingesting, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we were to pick wheat in the wheat field and probably chew on the wheat back in the day before they started GMOing it, I'm sure
Mhm.
that that would have been beneficial for us. But because the way it's been transmuted as an energy into flour and then into bread and then to
Yeah.
all these other products. Um, let's ask this question: do our bodies recognize bread as a wheat substance? No, it actually recognizes it as like a foreign element, a foreign substance, which is probably why we have so many issues around
Yeah.
bread.
Autoimmune disorders. Um, so let's ask. I feel like the most fun way to do this is find a very smart dead doctor, since you get to talk to people who are in spirit. Did any come to mind for you?
Not right offhand, no.
Yeah.
You can
Hmm.
ask Bashar. He's here. He's ready to talk.
I am always more than happy to talk to Bashar, and I have lots of questions for everyone in his line. Um, let's see. What does Bashar think about celiac disease? Does he think it's something genetic, or just humans shouldn't have bread in general?
What do you think about celiac disease? He says it's man made.
Does he think bread is bad for us?
Do you think bread is bad for us? It serves a purpose. What purpose does it serve? Well, it feeds people. It stops people from going hungry. It's cheap. It's filling. It's satisfying, but nutritionally, is it really serving a purpose? Absolutely not.
So what's interesting is the doctor I was referencing, he considers basically flour derivatives products, what he considers to be survival food, something that should only keep you alive through winter, considering you have nothing else. So that's the way he looks at flour products,
Mhm.
which is an interesting way to think of it. Um, does Bashar think there's any benefit to alternatives like coconut flour or chickpea flour? Would they be better for us?
Or coconut flour or chickpea flour alternatives better? Yes, they're not GMO'd. Is it the GMO? And the mass production. Yeah, it's the mass production. It's the stuff they put in there.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because, the bugs, there's pesticides. I mean, it's probably hard to escape, honestly. And I'm looking at these products. Um, they're essentially hard to grow without too many pesticides. I think maybe to me, just off of my own knowledge, this sounds like it could be the healthiest. What is
Oh, the
Bashar?
quinoa flour.
Yeah, what does he think about that?
Is quinoa the healthiest? No.
What does he think? Well, then he has to provide a follow up. What does he think is the healthiest flour alternative?
Do you think oat flour is the healthiest? No. Do you think that cassava flour is? No. What other choices do we have?
I don't know
Rye
about rye.
flour? No. Rye is also gluten. Tapioca? No. Almond flour? Almond flour is the most beneficial out of all of those.
The only unfortunate part is I don't know. I'm thinking of people who have like nut allergies. They might not be able to do that. But
Mhm.
and something that also sucks is how much water it takes to grow an almond plant. Um, it's pretty outrageous how much water it takes to make like a gallon of almond milk, for instance. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it's one of those things just that no one looks into. But let's get into some more interesting stuff with Bashar. Um, when I think of Bashar, I think of things like channeling, chakras, space information. So maybe we can actually ask him about this. One of your viewers messaged me about this book. Apparently, it's by this guy named Alec Newald. And you never know if that's his real name or just, an alias. But let's ask Bashar if the person who wrote this book was actually abducted for 10 days.
Okay. Was the person that wrote Coevolution, the true story of a man taken for 10 days to an extraterrestrial civilization? Is that true? No.
Was he abducted by aliens at all?
Was he abducted by aliens at all? No.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen with this. All my favorite people I've ever looked at, we get to know. I'm more
Um,
interested. I
so
would be
can I
more.
tell you what happened to him?
Yeah, what are you picking up on?
He took some hallucinogenics and
So funny.
he went away for like 10 days in nature. So maybe, because aliens abduct the consciousness, not so much the physical, right?
Yeah, maybe that's the question.
So
If
let's ask that. Did his consciousness become abducted by extraterrestrials? Yes.
Okay, so was his book over 70% accurate?
No, lower.
Over 50% accurate?
Is it 50%? Probably 40.
Oh, well, 40% is no good to me. What I'm interested in hearing is if Bashar knows we're going to use your psychic powers here, if he can kind of bring in a consciousness for you, to kind of like pluck a consciousness for the conversation of an earthling that has been abducted to kind of like introduce this consciousness into the conversation.
Okay, so you want him to find a
Yeah, if he could, because
consciousness?
he'll know one instantly if there are any.
Is there, so there's a man in the desert.
And are they alive?
Are they still alive now? No. But this man was taken from the desert, transported somewhere, and then dropped back down in the desert.
Cool. So let's use that magical um higher density conversational skill you got there to have him pull in that person's like astral or soul or consciousness or whatever.
Okay, I have him here.
Okay, then let's ask them directly. Um uh kind of like what era was that, in the last 100 years that happened?
Was that in the last 100 years? Yes, it was quite recent. What decade was it? Was it what did you say? What decade? It was the 60s.
What was he doing in the desert?
What were you doing in the desert? He was doing archaeological or some sort of research study.
Was he abducted because he was about to discover something that he shouldn't have?
Were you abducted because you're about to discover something you shouldn't have? No, but he was always fascinated by aliens and always left his mind open to them.
Was he abducted during the daytime or at nighttime?
Were you abducted during the daytime? It was daytime.
And did anyone witness this?
Did anyone witness this? No.
From his perspective, how long was he gone?
From your perspective, where you gone? 4 hours.
Okay, and then this is where we pull in Bashar. Was asked Bashar how much Earth time passed for him while he was abducted.
Oh, good question. How much Earth time passed while he was abducted? What, 3 minutes?
Or I should say, did the aliens, from Bashar's perspective, stop time or manipulate time or anything like that to work on him?
Did the aliens stop time? Yes, they have the ability to stop time. That is correct.
Well, I guess to be more specific, let's ask Bashar if time inside of a UFO craft flows differently than time on the ground of Earth.
Does time inside of a UFO craft flow differently than the Earth? No, once you've entered the sort of the Earth's atmosphere, you're now on Earth time.
So, what I'm interested in probing here is um, the gravitational engines that these use. Can you ask him if they affect time while in the ship ever? The engines?
Gravitation. Do they affect time? No, they do not affect time, but the time on the Earth's atmosphere is actually quite dangerous for aliens. It causes them to age. Where they're from, there's no gravity. Does that mean we avoid the aging process if there's no gravity? That is correct. Wow.
So, there's this really interesting concept, and I'm going to try and see if I can Google it. It's been a long time since I was in high school and read this theory. It has to do with like a dot. I think it might be an atomic clock. If it's in motion, let me see if I can find a picture that can depict this. Kind of the concept I'm going for the sake of the conversation. Long story short, you can imagine an atomic clock, what it's doing. I cannot believe there's not that good of a representation of it. So, anyways, what's happening with these things is they're bouncing a electron or something back and forth between two plates to consistently measure time, right? And you might be able to kind of see it here. It's bouncing a photon or something, and it measures it. And the theory is like what's weird, and this is when physics gets real weird, is you imagine this machine is moving through space, and I really wish I could find a YouTube graphic for this. But imagine this is sideways and it's moving this way. But let's just say it starts moving at the speed of light. Would this photon, to see if this is moving in this direction at the speed of light, then that means that this photon has to bounce from here to here faster than the speed of light for time to be a constant. And ask Bashar if he knows what I'm talking about.
He knows. He knows what you're talking about.
Uh, so ask him if the laws of physics change depending on speed.
Ooh, do the laws of physics change depending on speed? Yes, that is correct. The laws of physics are very different off the Earth plane compared to what we have here.
Does so our scientists think that we can't go beyond the speed of light because the amount of energy it would take. Um, let's just ask that. Does Bashar think we can, like, let's just say a physical object can go faster than the speed of light?
Can a physical object go faster than the speed of light? Can a physical object go faster than the speed of light? No. An energetic object can go faster than the speed of light, but
Yeah.
not an actual physical object.
Um, can you ask him if this is the principle of like how we do travel, interstellar travel is like by warping space?
Warping space. For the benefit of me and the audience, what do you mean by that?
So what you do is you imagine a piece of paper and you imagine this is a section of the universe and this is where you are. The theory is that we'll never be able to learn how to travel beyond the speed of light, but that what we will learn how to do is fold the universe like a piece of paper, and then it's like a hole punch, and that's what we science kind of thinks is how we'll travel by warping space.
By warping space. Yes, if you can figure out how to do it, yes.
But is that how aliens travel currently?
Is that how aliens travel currently? No, they punch in coordinates.
So you know what's super interesting about that is he totally um, hit on something very Bashar esque in what he talks about. Is he says eventually we'll learn how to travel the way that they do, and what they do is they know the way a certain coordinate of space has a certain frequency, and what you would do to travel from here to there is you would harmonize yourself and your ship to the same frequency of a different coordinate, and space itself would just shoot you there, like you would just be there somehow, and he didn't explain how. So that's kind of the mystery, is
So,
how that would happen.
so here's the thing. If you go back up to that square grid,
Yeah.
that is very interesting to me because in a CTT session, the person that I was doing the CTT for took me to the edge of the universe. And we knew that we could not cross over that line. Now, when I
Wow.
turned around and looked back, the universe is a perfect square. Okay.
Interesting.
And it has grids, just like what you show. I mean, that's a rectangle, but it has grids, it has squares. And then in those squares are more squares and more squares and more squares and more squares. And you can just keep, going down to, the smallest square you could possibly imagine.
Yeah,
And then within those squares, our souls are energetically placed on this grid,
yeah.
almost microscopic if you're looking at it from, this point of view. So let's ask Bashar, if you are in one part of the universe and you want to say get to where you're connecting with me this evening, are you actually in my room? Yes, he is. Okay, so I can see him. He always floats above me when I talk to him. He looks like Jabba the Hutt. That's how I see Bashar. So, how did you know that I was going to meet with Mr. Robot tonight and that you needed to be here in my room? So he calculated that. And I'm saying, but is that because you know the future? Yes, he knows everything. Okay. Are you
Well,
bound by source law? No, he's not bound by source law. So those of us living within source law of the universe, right? Within this universe, we have a lot of rules and regulations that we have to abide by, and that we're not privy to know a lot of information. What would be a good video is to find out why in the hell we have this mind wipe every lifetime. Anyway, let's ask Bashar. So you knew that I would be talking to Mr. Robot tonight. That's correct. And
well,
so did you already punch in the coordinates? He'd already planned to be here.
so what's interesting about that is in all of his videos, channelings, I should say, he says that all everything exists in the now and the past, and when he references the past, the present, and the future, he references it to. He says, from what you perceive to be the future, what you perceive to be the past, is all actually in the now, and you are just consciously on a higher level choosing to see it linearly. But that's kind of like what we do as humans. We are consciously choosing to see things in that linear time scale. But when you obviously have this higher perspective, you can just see every time if you want. It's kind of what I'm getting.
Can we see everything at once? No, we can't see everything at once though.
Okay,
That would be on his level, which is all knowing, right?
let's ask him if he is from what we would perceive to be as humans. Is he in the future?
Are you in the future? Yes, he's in the future, past and present.
So when he talks about where he is, he considers himself downstream. He he says from our perspective, they are the future and we are the past.
From our perspective, you're the future. No, from our perspective, we are the now. Excuse me. And your perspective, sorry, his perspective, he can be whatever we want him to be because he's energy, right? He's not bound by gravity. He's not
Well,
bound by a physical body.
we'll ask him about the. So first of all, we have to clarify when we talk about Bashar. I think what we're pulling in is, let's just say, a collective consciousness from the race of the Essassani. Can we specify more clearly? Are the Essassani race bound by gravity on their planet?
No,
Okay, well, let's just put it this way: are the Essassani race on their planet in our future.
This is to our future. No.
And then sometimes this might get muddled between their perspective of future and present. Why does he say no?
Why do you say no? Because in order for them to be our future, we have to undergo a massive shift in consciousness that would align with their consciousness.
Well, I don't necessarily mean like human futures, but I mean like in reference to our perspective of the now, are they in the future, the Essassani race?
Oh, the perspective of the now. Are you in the future? Yes, they are in the future. They're everywhere.
What does he think about the starting point of the universe?
What do you think about the starting point of the universe? It was supposed to happen. It was time for another universe. And what how was it? It was created by a big bang.
Can you ask him if the Big Bang had anything to do with a black hole?
Did the Big Bang have anything to do with a black hole? It was not only just one black hole, but a lot of black holes.
Ooh, I just have this crazy image in my head thinking of every black hole in the universe. So first of all, we all should know, if you don't know, that the center of a galaxy is a black hole. What if all of the black holes in the universe spewed out to one exit being our past where the Big Bang starts? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so is that how that happened? That all the black holes spewed out at the same time, sort of in the same direction and caused the bang? That is correct. Aren't you clever?
Well, the black hole thing is super fun. I wish I was a genius to talk deeper about it. But I feel like we've expended what I want to talk about with Bashar. Who I do want to talk to is Eridif. Do you have Eridif there by chance?
I do.
Did Eridif know we were going to talk to him this evening?
Meredith did know that, yes.
And we gotta cross reference. Why did Eridif know that we were going to talk to him this evening?
Why did you know that we were going to talk to you this evening? It's all predetermined. It's already written in the future.
What was Eridif doing before he knew we were going to talk to him?
What were you doing before you knew we were going to talk to? Just sitting with his feet up,
Can
reading a book, waiting to be called upon.
can you ask him if he was talking to Treb today?
Were you talking to Trev today? Not so much today, but I feel like yesterday.
Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is to tell people um, a couple different things between Flower and my friends' struggle in the Ukraine. I wanted to tell people about this experiment I did, and I think it was kind of a breakthrough, um, and wanted to share it. So some people know because every time I talk about this, I get a bunch of emails, and everyone's like, "Oh, why are you trying to channel aliens?" And everyone gets kind of mad at me, but whatever. This is my fun hobby.
Don't worry about it.
I I try to talk to these people as easily as, let's just say, the people who channel them. I do wish I had more of a psychic link. I do see stuff very, very vaguely. I would say I'm 1% there, so not much. But anyways, I had a breakthrough because I do Reiki healing with people anywhere in the world, so I can connect people in this higher dimensional state very easily. And I was just thinking, What is the difference between this and channeling? A couple things, obviously, but the the point is that I'm connecting to something that's very far away. So I used the same method and connected to Erudif and actually felt his presence and
Mhm.
sent him some Reiki. So I'm just wondering if he what he thinks about that. If he
He
were
was very honored to receive. I mean, obviously, it's not going to heal anything, but you did send energy over. He did receive it, and he knew who that was from.
Yeah, so okay, so that is part one is if he noticed it. He noticed it, obviously.
Yes.
Um, was he surprised that that happened?
No, he was expecting it.
Sorry, I'm just like blown away because so when I do Reiki, I can just connect to anyone, anywhere, and to me, it's not that weird. It's just like Liz saying she can talk to dead people. It's this a weird thing we can do, right? So it is what it is until you step outside of it and you find some new thing you can do. So I connected directly with Erudif and sent him some energy, and I thought it was so interesting.
He appreciated that.
And yeah, tell him I cleared his chakras.
Do you have chakras? They have energy center, but it's not chakras. But yes, it's the same.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
They only have one energy center as opposed to us.
well. Anyways, this breakthrough for me was kind of like watching the man step on the moon for the first time and being like, it's it was a pivotal moment. I mean, a lot of people send. There's a whole lot of hippie alien people out there who are like, "Oh, we're gonna send them our good vibes." There's a lot of super positive people who send, let's just say, positive intent outwards. But I literally connected, and I thought that was kind of fun. So that was the point of that conversation. Does Erudif have anything he wants to talk about?
What? The war?
Which war? In Ukraine and Russia?
No,
Oh, like alien Earth war?
no. The war in the Middle East.
Oh, Gaza and everything?
Hmm.
Yeah, what does he think?
What do you think about it? It's horrific. Um, what's going to be the outcome? And this is why it's so horrific because there will not be any real outcome.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's most war has no real. I think people run out of money and bodies to throw at it, and that's war. It's always been pointless in my view, and it sucks because I feel like people who actually care about stuff wouldn't ever want to go to war, and it's political reasons, I guess, and religious. I don't know. I'm not. I don't really look at that stuff. I don't know why there's a war right now. Honestly.
Um, but this, he says, this is never ending. What do you mean? Will there never be an ending to this? No, this friction will always remain.
Mm.
So it's not going to lead to a new beginning. This is just an extension.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is when I listen to Erudif on his videos, he says that we're going through these changes because we, as a collective consciousness of humans, are trying to rapidly shift towards a better world, which means we're trying to get rid of these small reasons of why we all hate each other, which may in turn show itself as war. So, the question is if Erudif sees if people on Earth were making progress.
Do you see people on Earth making progress? What, through war?
Just in general, if we're progressing,
As a whole, are we progressing as a whole? Not really. I mean, we're progressing, we're advancing more earth plane advancements, but as far as like soul ascension, no, not really. We need a transition, we need a change
yeah,
because the current way is not working. That's Erudiv's personal thoughts, feelings, and
yeah,
opinions. Erudif doesn't have to worry about soul ascension. Erudif is not bound by source law.
or war. There's no. I'm sure he doesn't see war very often.
Do you see war very often? No.
Does he think the Alpha Draconians are suppressing humans?
Who are the Alpha Draconians? How do
I
you
don't
know
know.
this stuff?
That's what I do.
I mean, I'm like, who are these people? I've never heard of them.
They're just some lizard people,
Oh gosh. Okay.
reptilians,
Oh,
or whatever.
reptilians?
Does he think the Alpha Draconians are suppressing humans?
Do you think the Alpha Draconians are? Absolutely.
Are they the reason why we have pointless wars?
Are they the reason why we have? No.
Ooh, is there any alien influence in the reason why we have these wars?
Is there any alien influence in the reasoning behind these wars? Sometimes.
So I'm gonna at the very end of this, I'm gonna end the video on a very funny note. So just everyone's ready for that. But we'll switch gears. So I only talking about war and stuff. Does what does Ariel think about this drawing by Bob Lazar about these three anti-gravity units that Bob Lazar mentions are inside of this UFO craft? Does he
Did Bob
think these
Lazar
are kind of somewhat accurate?
did Bob Lazar see the inside of a UFO craft? He did. And why did you need, or why did the UFOs need a solid gravitational, you know, craft? That was for the benefit of humans, Erudif says.
Yeah.
Uh, it was about confirmation that aliens do exist. We have to put it in physical terms, or certainly more so back then, in order to be believed. Oh,
Sorry, my dog's barking at me.
so what were those three things at the bottom?
So Bob Lazar basically says that they are projecting and warping space time and gravity in such a way where it creates a like downhill sled effect. I think two of them support the craft, and then one they all move freely, and it would aim in front of the craft and make what would essentially be like a negative a vacuum. So it's kind of like a sucking feature that it's the method of propellant is in front of the craft, where it's creating like a downhill gravitational field, basically. Maybe you could just ask if if I'm right on that.
That is correct. It's sort of like a magnetic field.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. So I mean, so that's what's actually one of the most interesting things for people who study whatever aspect of science that is they notice the interaction between magnetism, gravity, and time, and then they start thinking about other things like space, warping. Um, but one interesting thing about Bob Lazar is he said they use a very specific element. I think it's like, let's see, I want to say it's like 115. Yeah, 115. So can you ask Meredith if some of the craft that were alien craft that were down, let's just say shot down or whatever, in like between the 50s and 60s, if they used element 115?
Did they use element 115? That is correct.
I think this is the correct word. Ununpentium.
That's the earth plane word. Yes.
So what's interesting about this, and the reason I give Balazar credit, is because he mentioned the element 115, but it like obviously wasn't on our periodic table at that time because we hadn't discovered it yet. And then this is beyond me in the chemistry realm, but like his gravitational weight and like everything that makes an element ended up equaling 115. So that's why I give Bob Lazar credit. I know you did a video on Bob Lazar. I think you said that like
I had problems tapping into him.
oh, you said he had like a shield, right?
He had a shield that he wasn't even aware about or
Yeah.
aware of, put in place so that remote viewers could not really penetrate him and grab information by somebody in the CIA who's now passed on. And it took me a while to penetrate past that shield, but I did. I was persistent.
What does Eric think about Bob Lazar?
What do you think about Bob Lazar? He's excellent.
Does he think that he saw real alien craft or human recreate like replicas of alien craft?
He saw real parts of alien craft. Yes. Was it a replica? No. It wasn't all put together though.
So mm, does what does Eric think about John Hutchinson's experiments?
What do you think about John Hutchinson's experiment? Absolutely brilliant for an Earth plane being.
Does he think John Hutchinson was tapping into different realities?
Do you believe that John Hutchinson was tapping into different? Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's ask Eric why metal would start floating in his experiments.
Start floating. Because they defied the laws of gravity.
But why?
But why? Why did they defy the laws of gravity? Because the gravitational mathematical equation had been solved.
yeah, so I feel like I talk about this at least once a year with you on our videos. But to recap, this guy is one crazy scientist. He's a modern day Nikola Tesla, and he lives in a camper. You know what's crazy is while he was doing his experiments, this is actually what his apartment looks like. It's all these machines. And you know what's funny is while he was turning all these knobs, all his neighbors' spoons and forks would start floating in the air in their kitchens.
That's funny.
And and he said about six different governments came to his house and took apart his entire creation, took complete note of it all, so they could try to use it for their own uh, science. But none of them were able. I mean, to our knowledge, none of them were able to recreate what he did in his experiments.
That's correct.
And then, so the theory is that his consciousness was the key to these machines working together.
This is the consciousness, his consciousness. Yes, that is correct.
And I have no idea why I know that. Somehow from years of studying this, that's kind of just somehow something I found. But so this is what happened is he put a pure thing of, you know, aluminum or steel in on this plate, and he would turn all these dials on all his machines, and then they would start pulsating and turning liquid, and then they would turn into these new unidentified exotic elements, and and sometimes they would float in the air. So that's why some people think he was tapping into different realities, different dimensions, because for metal just start warping and changing just by looking at it was pretty interesting.
It's kind of like the large version of spoon bending.
Yeah, like spoon bending with a turbo.
Yeah.
You guys got to go type in John Hutchinson on YouTube, and you can see these things pulsing. Oh, you know what's really interesting is he found the same effects even on non-metallic items. Like for instance, right here, this piece of wood bonded with metal, which obviously shouldn't happen without, you know, a 12-ton press or something. But it just kind of scooped. It just kind of fell into the metal. So a lot of weird things happen. Um, that could be another video.
Mm.
I think we might have touched on some of it in the past, but oh, here's it is. Here's a spoon that just warps into this piece of metal. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, and then there's a lot of conspiracy theories about this and a certain day that happened in our lives. Starts with a nine,
Oh, okay.
ends with a rhymes with something. I think everyone can guess what I'm talking about. Um, because this type of science can warp metal without any heat. So I'll
Oh,
I'll leave it at that. But people can deep dive.
is that what happened on the day that those buildings came down? No, it was the heat that melted the building.
So there's some theories about. So there was
Another building.
what's it called? There was like tunnels underneath that weren't used. To specify, can you ask if this effect was in effect on that day at all?
Was the Hutchinson effect in effect on that day at all? Not for those two buildings. No,
Gotcha. Well,
but it has been used in other times.
yeah. Well, it sounds like it's been picked up on, finally weaponized, most likely.
Is the Hutchison, well, let me group it as an entity. The Hutchison effect is very powerful. Is has this been used into a weapon? Yes. So who uses this? Who uses this? Militaries use this. The US military, yes, but this is like sort of top secret stuff. Other militaries, British military. What about other European militaries? No. What about Australian military? Yes. What about Russia? No. What about like Israel? Yes. So some militaries do use it.
So what I'm most interested in, because I don't like to expose weird government secrets, is something a little less crazy. Is if you can ask it, since you're talking to it as an entity, if Boeing tried to use this in their aircraft.
Did you try to, Boeing? Did you try to use the Hutchison effect in your aircraft? It doesn't work.
So the theory was is so I haven't shown you anything in because you got to look at the videos, but stuff would float, and the idea was is that they tried to recreate the floating aspects inside of the aircraft because that would save them thousands of dollars of fuel if they reduced the weight of the aircraft internally through this new technology. That was the idea that's worth probing.
Did it work? It didn't work, unfortunately.
Were they close?
Were you close? Relatively, yes, but you see, this can cause adverse reactions in humans.
Yeah, I mean, I'll call this not a good reaction if you're in a plane. You don't want to just bond with the metal because that is very reminiscent of that boat, the Philadelphia experiment. Are you familiar?
Hey, you'll have to remind me.
So just they found like this Nikola Tesla thing that was supposed to basically make their ship invisible. They turn on these huge Tesla coils and basically blasted their ship at a certain frequency, and then the whole boat disappeared, and then it reappeared like in a weird location, and people were fused into the metal, and it's very reminiscent to me as the type of a phenomenon that happened with Hutchinson's experiments. Supposedly, these people just bonded with the metal because the space and time and whatever was warped. So that's maybe you could just ask Eric if the Philadelphia experiment, if the rumors are real.
Okay, so the Philadelphia experiment, um, was that real? Um, yes and no.
Did people accidentally get fused with metal during that?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, that's all I need to know.
There were parts that were true and parts that weren't true.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't care if a boat disappeared or being. I think what's really crazy is if people got bonded with a metal ship. I think that's terrible.
It actually, some people died.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, that could be a video. There's so many videos and movies about it. It's really interesting.
You know, that would be a great probe.
Yeah, we should do it.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions regarding the Philadelphia experiment, please drop it in the comments and we'll do another probe on it.
Cool. I think that's all I got for now.
All right. Well, again, if you want to get in touch with Mr. Robot, please contact him at moongrass777 at gmail.com. Thank you, Mr. Robot, for being here this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.